Hey everyone, welcome to Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers, where we aim to share real stories about running a successful family business, working through adversity, and pouring back into the community that keeps our door open. We're your hosts, Matt, Shelby, and Taylor, and we bring you relevant local business advice and automotive insights that are sure to change the way you look at running a business, and maybe even throw in a plug for you to do business with us. If you'll just do what you ask your employees to do and they can see you doing it, don't toot your own horn. No. Don't sit there and pound your chest about it, but just let them see you doing it. You have a 7.3 X factor on your culture in your department. Welcome to this week's episode of Crossroad Conversations, man. Today's going to be an exciting one, Taylor.
It is. We got a lot of things to go over in different areas that are really exciting.
We get to talk culture, and it's something we internally talk about a bunch, and I got to pull myself back to not dive in immediately here about culture in our workplace, because if you've ever been around us, heard us talk about it, or been in the dealership, culture is one thing we know, and we're so excited to share it with all the business owners out there in Northwest Arkansas. Or maybe you're not even a business owner, but you're management or a supervisor, what you could do to make the culture better in your workplace. That's what we're going to dive into today. So get ready. We're going to talk about culture in the business, internal culture, creating a customer culture, and then the effects that the customer culture has on both your employees and the community.
Absolutely. That's huge. That's a lot of exciting things that are going to go on.
But before we do that, we've got to talk about recap from last week. This is episode 4. Episode 3, we talked a ton about how to adapt as a leader. So if you didn't get that episode, wherever you find your podcast at, make sure to go back and check out episode 3. Just a couple highlights there. How we were challenged to adapt during adversity, during all this construction, our road as leaders, and how we've adapted there. There are different phases, and then how we looked for different leadership and different advice to pour into us at our different phases of leadership. And we really hit on, you've got to remember, as a leader, every day you either get better or you get worse. You never stay the same. So make sure to check out that episode 3, but on to episode 4 today.
On to episode 4, I got to go ahead and stop there, make sure of call to action of, hey, make sure and visit us there at lewissuperstore.com. And also, as these podcasts get rolling, make sure and like and subscribe to be able to see any previous content as well as the new stuff we have coming down the funnel. But Matt, let's get right into it. Transition to obviously talking about culture. What is company culture and the definition of our strategy of culture?
That's right. Culture is something that we take very seriously within our automotive group. And here's why. We understand that we can control the culture. Now, there's plenty of variables out there that we cannot control. Maybe it has to do something with interest rates, or maybe it's the government, or maybe it's supply from our manufacturers. But what we can control, and we talk about this, is control the controllables and let everything else away. The controllables are the culture is where it has to start in our workplace. We're going to reference some literature. We thought we'd bring you some facts today instead of just opinions by the Lewis brothers, even though that's going to be in there too. So we recently dove into an article by Forbes they put out there about culture in a workplace. I want to start you off with some stats, Taylor, and then see what kind of intrigues you or how you think we have integrated that in within the Lewis Automotive organization. Here's what Forbes said. They said, consider this. 90% of workers who rated their company culture rated it poor and thought about quitting. 90%. That means 9 out of every 10 people thought that their company had a poor culture and they considered quitting.
That's really a huge fact whenever you look at it. And majority of people, business owners as yourself probably that are listening there, whenever you would go out and think about that, hey, I've got a great culture, everyone loves, well, no, they're just not saying anything. They're being quiet, they're working, and they're leaving. You're not getting down to the brass tacks of it.
I would agree with that. So it's important as a leader is how do you talk to the ones that have the boots on the ground? How do you get involved boots on the ground? And then how do you sniff out when somebody's saying everything is going great and it's really not? Because let's face it, Taylor, employees tell you and I something totally different than what they'll tell their other circle of influence.
Yes, and that's the important part of, we reference this of brothers, whether it's Matt, Shelby, or myself, we all have different areas that they were better at receiving information or being able to hand that information over to employees, but being able to listen to that, be a part of that, be in the middle of it. If you don't have brothers, don't say, hey, again, Taylor, Matt, Shelby, I don't have a brother. You got to have a different business partner, someone that is keeping you accountable that's going to help you with that.
I think that's key, and you've said that a couple times, and I know you'll continue to say that. But listen up here. Don't look for advice or feedback on your business and your culture from just a yes person. You need somebody that will give you honest feedback about your business. And you've got those. They may not even be in a leadership role, and that's okay. You need somebody that you can bounce ideas, that you can ask, that's not just going to yes you to death, but that will actually give you constructive feedback. And listeners, if you'll pause out there and you'll think about it, who in my organization would tell me the truth, whether it's what I wanted to hear or what I didn't want to hear? Those are the people that you have stick a thermometer, let's say, into your culture and go, how did this go? What is our culture like? And culture's not a light switch, and we'll get into that. No. It's made up of all these small different things. One of the things that fires me up about that Forbes report, and I knew it was big, and we had a huge competitive advantage out there about having a great culture. But Taylor, when you think about it, 90% say they have a bad culture, which means only 10% have a good culture.
Yes.
That means we can beat 90% of the other businesses out there by just having a good culture. Not by the lowest prices, not by paying the most, but by just having a great culture. We can beat 90% of everybody else.
That is huge. That's so big and so important. And, you know, as we continue on more on this topic, you'll see that's an answer in itself why we're so deep rooted in it and why it's so important of our business model. But that's something we definitely have at the center of our core values that we want to make sure is provided to our employees. So, you know, diving into that great stat there from Forbes of going through, you know, we've talked a little bit about what our employee culture is and kind of what we want that to be.
Sure.
You know, why is that so important?
That's so important because you put people in an environment to either thrive and grow, or you put somebody in an environment where as soon as they have a blip in their day or something goes wrong, where they start to torpedo and their head gets in the wrong space. We talk about in our business and in sales and in marketing that it's not a physical business, but it's a mental business.
It is.
So you need to put somebody in the right culture. And y'all have seen this in sports all the time when you see behind the scenes. What does it look like in the locker room? You know, what is that culture? Do you have a culture in place that when somebody has a tough day or something's going on at home or somebody gave them the bird on the way to work driving, when they step in, are you energized and will you lift them up or will you bring them down? And I know this, I want to start giving the listeners out there some details on what they could do in their workplace to change that. First up, I'm going to throw it at you. Tell them about our music.
Our music is a different level. You know, Matt rolled into that if you try to lie to yourself and say that, hey, I'm going to have the perfect day, which that is a complete mindset of going through, and that's how we're setting up there. Someone's going to cut you off. You're going to run late to work. Something's not going to work at work. Whatever it would be is going to throw a wrench, a kink in your plan as you're getting going. Our music is huge. We have set up, Matt completely went off the deep end, but I absolutely love it, and I support every part of it. We went well over 30,000 watts. The lady, when we kept ordering speakers for the music in our conference room, she said, you don't need this. What do you do in a concert hall or something else? It's unreal. But that is to bring the absolute most energy. And when they have bad days or anything starting off, that's going to completely reset them.
Don't spoil that anymore because we're going to get into conference room and meetings here in a second.
I'm sorry.
I want to go one layer deeper for you because there's still some people out there driving. They're like, okay, that sounds great. I'd love to give 30,000 watts, but I'm not in charge of that. Let's talk about just the music in the background.
Absolutely.
When somebody would walk in. Do we have music? Do we not have music? And then how do you pick what station you play it on?
Absolutely. So I completely got off topic there.
That's
and
okay.
I almost run that. But of going into the music is key of being able to have presence of just audio that's around the whole thing. So whenever we were setting up this whole area, we made sure to have hey, of a couple of different genres of music, as you'll call it, but making sure, hey, it's positive, it's upbeat, and obviously during this day and time, making sure that it's family friendly across the board. Of making sure that everyone can listen to it, but it's got an upbeat tempo to it. So we make sure that it provides a positive environment that is more, pleasant for a customer coming in or anyone that's working there.
I think both of those are important there that you hit on is we do have music. So when you walk in, you feel that upbeat that music naturally does. Okay. And that happens for both employees and customers.
Yep.
You hit on the genre there. And I think people need to understand that it's not your playlist.
No,
it's not what you would listen to on the way to work in the morning. But in our age group, we've got to be able to hit somebody that's 18 and somebody that's 80.
Listen, and to be completely off the record there, I love the 90s music. Growing up, going through, getting in the middle of, if you like, I'll call it like a Mace or maybe even a Tupac or anything else. I love listening to that rolling to work, and you got to make sure, I know it's completely throwing you off there.
I got you. Keep going.
Completely throwing you off there. But the last thing, Matt, that I need to happen is whenever I'm talking to Mrs. Smith, that's 85 years old, she's bought 10 cars from us, and I got Biggie talking about this or that. It's not the time to do that. So we have to have something that hits all the different criteria that is, across the whole spectrum, that's right in the middle.
That's important to get out here, and you need to remember as a leader, it's not about you, it's about the customer. So you've got to make sure that you adapt, and we talk about this in vehicles or we talk about this in music. It's got to be upbeat. We don't just have elevator music going on. It's got to be upbeat, but it's got to be able where everybody can adapt to it and it won't offend them. And that's how you got to look at business is, am I going to offend anybody? That's the next subject I want to get into on how we talk to our employees. And there's a reason I'm talking about employees first before our customers, because we truly believe, and the data from Forbes shows it, that how we talk to our employees is how our employees will talk to our customers.
Sure.
And these are basics, guys. Okay, none of this stuff is mind-blowing, but all these small pieces add up to a winning culture. And how we talk to our employees, the first subject I'm going to bring up is cussing.
Yes.
Do we personally cuss? And then what do we do when we hear an employee cussing?
Absolutely. That's something we have to pull them to the side right away, because in more times than not, especially in our business, they get marked or anything of that. In different workplaces, they allow that. That's not acceptable. We make sure that if it is heard by one of us, especially from the top down, that we want to bake that in, that it's not allowed. That's not a time or place for that here around families, around customers, around anything else. So that's something we've nipped in the bud from the get-go. Does it still happen? Yes, but we want to make sure that we've provided that culture that we can critique that whenever it does happen.
I think that's important to put there is we have a culture, and then they hear us talking. Is we might get a new employee that comes in and they come from a culture where they're cussing all the time. Some of y'all listening are like, Matt, what's the big deal with that? Here's what the big deal is you have customers, and that might offend. It might not offend you, but it might offend the customer.
Absolutely.
They'll end up leaving. They may not leave a Google review. They may not say anything, but they left.
Yes.
And that's who's generating the income so you can make your business work. So we've had some employees say, what's the big deal? There's nobody here. They're like, you're going to practice how you're going to perform. And if you're cussing 1 minute and you think all of a sudden the next minute that you don't, you never know who's on the other side of the cubicle or the other side of the wall.
Yes.
We want to teach those good habits in there where we're talking positively. Same thing on talking. We're in business to make money. We're a for-profit business.
Absolutely.
Okay? But the one thing we don't do is after we sell a car or we put an engine in a vehicle, we don't walk around talking about how much money was made on it.
No, absolutely not.
But there's some businesses out there that do. They do. And then again, you'll offend somebody on the other end that trusted you with doing business with them. Listen, if you're listening up out there and you're an entrepreneur, making a profit, the word profit is not a bad word.
No.
But to rub it in somebody's face is.
Absolutely.
So what are your thoughts on the culture there? How do we keep that at bay?
The culture there, and I always love this whenever somebody comes in and they ask that. And I get into really negotiating or any talking about anything. I love that whether it be fixing a vehicle or selling a vehicle, I can really get into and talk to a customer of, Hey, we've been in business almost 80 years now, because whenever we're getting compared on price or service or anything else, I'm going to say there's two different areas I really love to dive into. It's that a family member's here and we can make decisions. But the second deal is, again, we've been in business for almost 78 years. There's no one else in our area in Northwest Arkansas that can say that in the automotive business.
Okay.
And a lot of those will promise things and not deliver on them. We've been in business that long because you've allowed us to be able to make a profit because we provide a great service. Yes, I'm going to make a profit, but I'm going to make a profit so that whenever you have a question or concern, I'm here and I can help you.
Absolutely.
And I have it sold out and moved on to something else.
I think it's important that we continue to talk about the culture is internal first to have an external reflection.
Yes.
Okay. And we're going to continue to talk, and hopefully you're dialed in and you're listening and you're just eating this stuff up, because this is a controllable in any workplace. I don't care what industry you're in, that you could immediately fix. Now, you're going to have some roadblocks. Okay, if everybody else around you is cussing and hollering and flipping over tables and threatening and this and that, it's going to take you some time, but find somebody else to team up with. We talk about a lot of times in our leadership is show me the 5 closest people to you, and an average of those 5 is what you'll become. See, if we can create that as we bring employees into our workplace, we will get them to adapt to a great culture that then has a great external experience from our customer, which is really, really important. So we've talked about music. We've talked about how we talk to our employees. We've got one more piece that we want to talk about. Well, maybe a couple more.
Yeah.
The next piece we want to talk about is our meetings.
Yes.
Everybody needs to have meetings, okay?
Absolutely.
Now, ours a little over the top, and Taylor started talking about that.
Yes.
But our meetings are important. Let's talk about the core first before you hit them with 30,000 watts and the fog machine, okay? That's icing on the cake.
Oh, the fog.
But the core of our meetings is we don't threaten.
Nope.
Okay? So somebody doesn't come into a meeting or go out of a meeting with a fear of loss for their job.
Nope.
Okay? It's positive. Again, we're not cussing, and we're not flipping the tables and chairs and stuff over. And some of y'all laugh, but that happens in industries all the time.
It does.
Give us some insight on that.
You know, the inside there, and Matt's kind of went around this and everything. We have a real deal of our culture of going into a meeting that is going to completely reset your mindset. And we love talking about this there's always a need in your business for a mindset change or a state change, as we would call it. And we've really adapted this because more times than not, you're going to deal with a difficult situation or a difficult customer that absolutely takes your positive mindset and completely just throws it in the trash. It throws it in the trash. But what that allows us to do, whether it's in a meeting, you know, the meeting walking in, all the managers are there together. They're high-fiving you, fist bumps, everything else. It's so important to have that atmosphere.
Sure.
Because it doesn't matter if you walk in with a grumpy face or not. You're going to smile, you're going to high five, and you're going to enjoy being there. So that's what we really interject in there. I won't completely go into everything that we have on there, but, you know, everything that is in that meeting, all I'll tell you, and we'll get more into this, but our first new meeting in our new store, we might have accidentally called the fire department because I like fog. Other people, it says it's hard. It's water-based. It's not really that it hurts you. I just continue to turn it on because I like the lights. I like everything else. And it brings the wow factor.
So I think what Taylor's getting to there is we built it into our new conference room. And if you want to see and you want to see what we're talking about, just stop by and we'll give you a tour. But it is 30,000 watts, real deal. Audio, 6 18-inch subwoofers, lighting show all the way around, disco ball, full projector, 2 fog machines. The whole thing. And you say, well, why do you do that? What, are you trying to create a rave or a nightclub? No, we're not trying to do that. But what we're trying to bake in is expectations as soon as somebody comes into the meeting on what this meeting is going to be about. It's going to be positive. It's going to be high energy. Okay, and then we're going to equip you ready to go. Now, it's not just So everybody doesn't think out there. They don't come into the meeting and we play 2 or 3 songs and fill the room with fog and then like go get them Tiger.
No.
That just sets the tone. Then we get into the facts so we can arm people to be super successful for the day.
Absolutely.
I heard this on the radio yesterday and it just happened to work out today. They said usually by 8:30 every single morning, get this fact, by 8:30 every single morning, somebody has determined whether they're going to have a good or a bad day because of what's happened to them so far in the morning.
By 8:30?
For the rest of the day.
Oh, my gosh.
What encourages me is the majority of our meetings are about at 9 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
So no matter what somebody came into with this predetermined factor of the day,
We reset it.
we can reset it. We can reset it. And Taylor talks about this, but we have this goofy chant called a state change. And the reason we do that is for a state of mind change.
Yes.
So if something happened to you, you can reset state of mind. Why would you let 8:30 determine the next 10 hours of your day? Okay, you have the ability between your ears to reset.
Absolutely.
To reset. So just think about that. So our meetings, again, they're upbeat, okay, they're informative, but they have high energy, so on and so forth, so that we can have a great day. So that's on the employee side of it. But I also want to talk about what they see from us as family members and leaders. And we talk about this, and I'll let Taylor go into it. But one of our sayings is you see Lewis on the building, but you'll also find a Lewis in the store. And some people have that saying of, hey, do you actually walk the talk or are you just talking? As a leader, tell them about how they would see you actually doing what you're asking people to do in the workplace.
You know, I love being a part of that. And the only way that you can do this is being there, Matt. Hit the nail on the head. But of going through and being in service, talking to service customers, checking on people, being in the middle of any sales customers that come in, you know, the only way that you can help as a leader, as a business owner, is being there. Love every opportunity we get to be able to talk to any of the customers, but of helping out situations. Whenever we hear maybe sometimes that you have an employee that isn't handling a situation correctly, if you're there, you can interject very quickly, and then y'all both become the hero, and then the customer's reminded that's why they come and do business with you.
There's no replacement for being in the middle of it and showing your employees what you're not too good to do.
Absolutely.
Have you ever taken out the trash?
For every day.
Have you ever washed a car?
Oh, we love doing that.
So when we start talking about those details that some people might say, hey, that's not my job description. That's not my job.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that makes our skin crawl is when we hear an employee say that.
That's not my job.
Because together we have to work, and if there's trash on the lot, or we have to open the door for a customer, or if we have to pull a car around the back because they're backed up.
Yeah. What about if snow shows up?
If snow shows up, we have a culture where we have snow shovels, we have plow trucks. Everybody jumps on and we move the snow. And some of y'all are thinking out there like,
that'll be another story.
you know, what about that? No, we should just have a snow day. We're responsible. So me and Taylor, and if Shelby was sitting there, we're responsible for almost 300 employees to make sure that they can provide for their family. And at the end of the day, we talked about that. Listen to the previous episodes. That's what's on our shoulders every single day. It's not just selling a car or servicing a car. How do we help 300 employees have a great culture to provide a great living for their family? And if we have multiple snow days in a row,
It's not good.
you know, over 90% of our employees are on commission based.
Yep.
They won't be able to provide an income. So again, it's that culture as well.
Yes.
Making sure that we're not too good to do anything that we ask our employees to do.
Yes.
Hey, let's go back to Forbes on some facts
yeah,
here.
get me in the middle of some facts there.
All right, so Taylor was talking about leading by example here. Here's what Forbes says.
Yep.
They said if you find a leader who is walking the talk, all right, they have a 7.3 times X factor
Okay.
on influencing the overall department's culture. So that's the nonverbal communication. So just think about this as a leader, and Taylor, I'll let you dive into this. But if you'll just do what you ask your employees to do and they can see you doing it, don't toot your own horn.
No.
Don't sit there and pound your chest about it, but just let them see you doing it. You have a 7.3 X factor on your culture in your department.
That's huge. That's bigger and better than anything you could go and teach by verbal words coming out of your mouth. That is, and in our business we talk about this, but the biggest form of communication is nonverbal communication that's from your body language. So that would be you showing up early, you doing this, you doing that, picking up, making sure cars are clean, making sure processes are in place that you expect your department to do. And that will go tenfold over what just comes. If you're sitting back and you're a person that just wants to give orders, you're never going to get the pull of the whole team. You won't get the buy-in there. So it's huge for you to be able to dive into that.
It really is. And if it will spoiler alert out there, if you don't think your employees know what you're doing, you're oblivious to the situation. Now, we grew up in an atmosphere as part of the family that, our father taught us early on that, like, hey, you're going to be under a microscope. Everybody's watching. And I can remember when I was washing cars, I was under a microscope, okay? So your employees, if you're in a leadership role, and I don't mean business owner, leadership role, your employees are watching what you're doing. Oh, yes. They're only going to rise to whatever level you've put in place. So that's, again, part of the culture is don't expect something out of your employees that you're not doing yourself. So again, just to recap, we've hit music, we've hit about how we talk to our employees, we've talked about our meetings, we've talked about leading by example, but let's talk about something that maybe is lost in today's society. Now, Taylor, you and I have grown up with this, and we got to say yes ma'am and yes sir, and we open the door for people and we show people around. But one of the things when they walk into the store, even if it's somebody in sales and they're looking for parts or service, we usually take that extra step and take them to that department.
Absolutely.
Walk somebody through that.
Somebody walking in the door, and this is a huge deal of ours, but don't be the person that sits there, kick back in your chair, whatever else, and just points. You want parts? Yeah, that's right back there, Miss Smith. Go on back there. No, be the person that hops up out of your seat and says, hey, welcome in, right this way. I don't care if you're parts, service, sales, wash bay, anything else. Whatever department it is, we encourage our whole team, walk the customer through that process. How do you think that makes them feel, obviously, whenever they're coming in?
It's a game changer.
It is.
If you show me where to go, I'm going to feel part like you care.
Yes. So then you're knowledgeable. You have a face that you're familiar with, and you're walking in, and I'm just showing you to where it's going. You're way more comfortable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's again, I know, guys, we're going over these small things that don't seem like a big deal, but all of those pieces add up to the culture. In our culture, that's what was most important to us, that we treated people and like a customer.
Yes.
We showed them where they needed to go. And any of y'all that have been in a department store or a big box store and you've had actually somebody show you what aisle it was and help you find the product versus saying, hey, that's on aisle 23 halfway down. The customer experience was different. It just was different. And what'd that take, 45 seconds?
Yeah, at most.
Just to add up there in the entire culture. So,
okay.
So we've talked about internally on the music and on how we talk in our meetings and how we lead by example, how we show the customer around. One of the things I think that most people don't pay attention to is then the multiplication factor of that customer and how it affects everybody in Northwest Arkansas. And you start to create a buzz about how the culture within Lewis Automotive, and then that makes people want to come do business with you.
Yes.
Now, they see it on our social quite a bit. You talked about our Saturday morning meeting or all the events we're at. People start to see that culture. So let's talk about it from a customer standpoint and how that might influence them to come do business with us.
Absolutely. So that's been really big part of that. And the culture has been there for a long time. That's why we're so deep rooted into it. We're we're the new building and everything. So that's the fun part of it. But the culture is what brings it back. Not only are we there and we're going to treat them differently and help them through any, obstacle that they may have as far as fixing any problem or anything else. But the great culture is being able to be out in the community and hearing from somebody, hey, they've done this. They did this for me. They answered the phone when nobody else would. They listened to me. They expedited my part whenever I knew there was no way that it would get here, and they still helped me through that process. So that was the huge part about, and you love to hear it on the other side, that you're out in the community and you hear something about that one of our managers has gone above and beyond.
Absolutely.
That's when we know we've done good there.
How many times have you heard from, you weren't at work, but whether you were at church or out in the community, and somebody talked about, hey, your meetings, I saw a video of that the other day. Have you got any feedback on that?
Oh my gosh. The meetings, they said, hey, I was strolling through everything, and then I follow everybody that is online that works for y'all. And they say, I wasn't for sure if y'all were at like a rock concert or what was going on. What is that? And I said, oh, that's our meetings. It's set up with X, Y, and Z that we've already talked to you about. They said, that's unreal. That's unheard of. That type of culture, that has to get the guys excited. Mm-hmm. So it's
you
huge.
take our Food Truck Friday. Truck Friday. How many people do you hear talking about that?
Oh, food truck. We have customers that have come in, followed it through the summer series.
You bet.
And they stop in. That's when they get their oil changer. That's when they come to get their car wash on. Hey, that's a plug on Fridays. Come by. You can get your car washed.
There you go.
Come and see us. But coming by to get the car wash, and they're going to get food while they're there, because Food Truck Friday has been awesome.
What about the cake days? You know, once a month we celebrate birthdays and cake days and awards. That goes on too, doesn't it?
Yes, you know, and I laugh about that because some of this stuff is, and I have to be reminded because it's so ingrained into us.
We just think it's normal.
Oh, yeah. It's like, I know we take care of customers. I know we have a great culture. I know we don't do cussing or any of this other stuff. And then Cake Day, I was reminded the other day, I know we do that every month. Mm-hmm. And that's part of recognizing our employees. So that's birthdays, anniversaries. We play a team building game of rock, paper, scissors. The winner wins a lunch gift card and be able to go through. But creating that constant culture that no matter what type of employee you have, because, Matt, let's face it, all of these things aren't going to work for every single person.
That's right.
We do multiple different things because then it hits all of our different aspects of employees.
There's one piece we haven't talked about yet.
Yes.
The gym.
Oh, my God.
We almost missed the gym.
The gym is unreal. It's absolutely...
So with our new construction project, if you didn't hear about it, we incorporated in like a real deal gym. Okay, like real deal.
It's serious.
It's state of the art. We've had some very key players in Northwest Arkansas come through and go, oh my.
Yes.
I didn't realize that it was to this level. But and a lot of people want to buy memberships to be able to come, but it's reserved just for the employees. Mm-hmm. That's it. It's of no charge to them. That relates right back to what we're talking about in culture, is how can we build a better workplace? Mm-hmm. So in the gym, what are a few things they might find that we're doing to create a better, healthier work lifestyle, but also adds to the culture?
You know, the culture, and there is extremes in all different areas. There's you probably like, hey, there's a treadmill and a couple of dumbbells. No, there is Smith machines, incline machines, squat racks, bench of going through. But there's, I'm going to hit you with a quick treadmills that go up to 30%. Ooh. There's a treadmill that goes up to 17 miles an hour.
That's fast.
Hey, or if you say you're just a real monster and climbing hills,
come on.
We got a couple stair masters that will absolutely knock your feet out from underneath you. But if that's not your forte, and I know a lot of people like this, we've got a spin class studio set up with bikes. We'll have instructors coming in that our whole team can come and do that. But okay. Spin class isn't your deal.
Not your deal.
You
what
know
else you got for me?
Because a lot of people go to the gym and they like just kind of amenities. We've got a sauna.
Real deal.
We've got a real deal sauna. You can come to. Gets up to 230 degrees. We've had people in there every single morning, day, night since we've opened it. But you know what? We want to go one step farther.
Let's go.
One step farther. We're talking 39 degrees.
All right.
And that could only mean one thing. 39 degrees reset. And that's going to be a cold plunge. Diving in, full cold plunge, getting in the middle. That is two different things that we have loved seeing our team get in, being involved in talking about in the culture. Hey, have you tried the cold plunge? Have you been in the sauna? It's been unreal.
It really has. There's a reason I say that towards the end of the episode, because I didn't want you listeners out there to go, okay, that's great. If we could build a multi-million-dollar facility and have a blank canvas, yeah, I could incorporate all that. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to bring that at the end and talk first about the basics on the controllables that you could do tomorrow without any money. It doesn't cost any money to change the music. It doesn't cost any money to be nice to people, to to run an effective meeting, to not threaten, to not cuss. There's no cost there and a very high ROI. But then, yes, we've taken things like our meeting atmosphere with the 30,000 watts, our gym, our patios all on the second floor so employees can actually, you'll hear a theme as we talk through these, is that we are taking care of the employee first to have the external reflection of a great customer experience. But I know you said, is it fun fact or fact quiz of the week?
So, Matt, we talked about a whole lot of things. We talked about presence of music and audio and everything else. I had somebody bring this up to me the other day. This is really cool. So, yes, we did the extra step of adding audio inside of the store. So whenever you walk in, audio is good there. Hey, but on Fridays and Saturdays, we really have a fun time of winding it up. We've got PA speakers and all of our speakers throughout the parking lot. So no matter whether you're inside or you're outside, that whole atmosphere is created as soon as you come on. So as you're sitting thinking, hey, how can I do this? How can I do that? You need to make sure once they step foot on your property, whether it's the presence of it looking clean, everything else, and music, it is inviting, and that culture's there that your customer feels welcomed at.
Absolutely. No, that's a great point.
Yes. Hey, but going back to your fun fact there. So, we talked about this a little bit. We're going to dive into because kind of how it come to, but what state has the most registered vehicles and how many do you think it has?
Ooh, man. I don't know that I've ever researched that.
Hey, it's got to be a northern state somewhere.
I would think so. I'm thinking like...
maybe Texas.
Maybe. I mean, maybe California, maybe in New York. It just depends upon if we're talking about public registered stuff or companies, because there's a lot of people in the state of New York.
Yes.
But then there's a lot of people that use mass transportation,
they don't
like
have a
taxis
car.
and Ubers and stuff. So I don't know. Am I getting hot there in the New York area?
Yeah, you would think. That would be my thought I'd go to. And most people would say, hey, Texas, because Texas of their sheer size and everything
would it be
else.
California?
It's California. You hit the nail on the head at California.
Got it.
And I mean, over 31 million registered vehicles on the road.
Wow. You know where my mind goes there on 31 million is the average time somebody owns their car is 3 to 4 years.
Oh my gosh.
That's a lot of opportunity for all the dealers out there, for people associated with dealers.
That's huge. That's a huge opportunity of going into there. Hey, diving into our last portion there, how does our business culture reflect NWA?
I believe our business culture affects NWA in a couple different things. I believe that our business of being in business for 78 years has an influence over other businesses. And I hope to think that they would see that as a model on what they could put in place for their business to make a better place for employees to be. And please don't miss that point. You've got to start with your employees first if you want to have a good external success. So I feel like that we get to influence other business owners out there to create a great culture, and then the public gets to see of, hey, that's a great place to do business with, and that buzz starts.
We have to rewind back there if you were listening at that, how important employee culture is. That does not just go with the surrounding everything around, but whenever you're diving into and you're looking for more talent, other employees to bring in, you have to remember, look at that internal employee you have and how valuable they are to your business situation, and pay them that worth amount value and put them into place there. Because the last thing that can be, it's really disruptive if you try to go out and find anything new and you're not valuing your employees that are currently in there.
No, I agree. And my last takeaway there is culture. And you got to protect it. You do. You got to protect it. As new employees come in, you got to make sure you're introducing them to the same culture. And just because you did a great job implementing a culture 10 years ago or 5 years ago or maybe even 2 years ago, we've had to remind ourselves that as we've grown another 100 employees, how do we make sure that, that they're beating to the same drum that we are on the same culture in place? Guys, this is something that you can put in place today. These small pieces of culture. I don't care how good your product is or how good your service is. You're only as good as your employees, and your employees are only going to be as good as your culture that you've set up for them to either thrive or decline and to look for something else. Protect your culture today, all right? Starting today, adjust that music, adjust the way you talk, adjust the way your meetings are formatted. Hey, and next week, we're going to talk about crisis in the workplace. So this is a big topic here, and how do you handle that? And, it's easier said than done, so we'll have some great stories. Make sure to tune in next week for Crisis in the Workplace. As of today, put in place in your workplace to protect that culture, and make sure to hit that subscribe button and listen to more business tips as we have coming along the way. Thanks for riding with us today on Crossroad Conversations with the Lewis Brothers. Hey, thanks for joining us today, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to give it a like, share it with your friends and family. Visit our website and send us some questions. We want to know what you'd like to hear, who you'd like to hear from, and what you want to see. Or maybe even some questions for us to answer about either the automotive industry or just business in general.